Hey everyone, welcome back. Ever feel like you're just spinning your wheels? Like you're busy, but not really getting anywhere?
Oh, yeah.
Today's deep dive is all about tackling that feeling head on. We're going deep on a classic for this one.
Good.
The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
A classic for a reason, right?
Right.
Even if you skimmed this book before, I think there's always something new to discover in Covey's work.
Absolutely. And I think we've all had those moments where you're going through the motions but not really feeling effective.
Yeah.
And Covey gives us this blueprint almost for building a life that's not just about checking things off a to-do list, but aligning your actions with what matters.
And it all starts with this idea of a paradigm shift.
Okay, a paradigm shift. It sounds kind of academic maybe, right?
Yeah.
But it's actually a very simple but profound concept.
Yeah, it's really about a fundamental change in how we see the world, how we see ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Like imagine wearing those glasses that turn everything upside down.
Mm-hmm.
A paradigm shift is like swapping out the lenses that you're viewing your life through.
Oh, I like that. That's a good analogy. So instead of feeling like you're at the mercy of your circumstances, this paradigm shift is about empowering us to take control.
Exactly. And that's where habit 1 comes in.
Yeah.
Be proactive.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing that we have a choice in how we respond to everything around the world around us.
And this isn't just about being optimistic or thinking positive thoughts. It's deeper than that.
Oh, for sure.
Covey challenges us to acknowledge that there's a space between what happens to us and how we react.
Yeah, to recognize that we actually have that space, that freedom, to choose our response, even in situations that are very challenging.
And that's so empowering.
It is.
It reminds me of a time, let's just say a work project went totally sideways.
Oh, no.
And my initial instinct, honestly, was to kind of panic, blame others, just all the unproductive responses.
Yeah, the blame game doesn't usually get you very far, does it?
Not really. But I remembered Covey's words about being proactive, so instead of getting swept up in the chaos of it, I took a deep breath. And I asked myself, okay, what can I control here?
It's such a good question to ask.
Yeah.
Because it shifts that focus, right? From complaining about what we can't change to really taking action on the things that we can.
Yeah.
Covey actually calls this focusing on your circle of influence.
So instead of stressing about all the stuff outside my control, like whether or not my boss was having a bad day,
Right.
I focused on what I could actually influence. My attitude, my effort, my communication. And you know what? It really made a world of difference.
It always does. Because when we focus on that circle of influence, we start to feel more in control, more capable of creating positive change. And it feels good.
It does. That sense of control, that proactive mindset, it's essential as we move to habit 2.
Yeah.
Begin with the end in mind. Now, this might sound like something you'd see on a motivational poster.
Right.
But it's so much deeper than just setting goals.
Absolutely. This habit is about aligning your actions with your values, your core principles. It's about asking yourself, what do I want my life to stand for?
Yeah.
And then making choices that reflect that vision. It really is. It's about creating a life of purpose, not just productivity, right? And I think one tool that Covey talks about that I really like is this idea of a personal mission statement.
Yeah. Instead of just having a vague idea of what you want, a personal mission statement helps you get really clear about your values, your aspirations, your definition of success.
It's like a compass.
It is. It's like you're creating a compass for your life.
Totally.
Which, actually, that's a good segue. Speaking of navigating, habit 3 is all about mastering our time and energy, making sure that we're actually prioritizing what really counts.
And that's where habit 3 comes in. Put first things first. So important. It's not even just time management, it's energy management as well. It's about making sure that your actions are aligned with your priorities.
And this is a game changer because it's so easy to get caught up in the urgent, those things that are just screaming for our attention.
Yes.
But when you actually look at the big picture, might not be that important.
Think about it. How often are you finding yourself, responding to emails, scrolling through social media, getting sidetracked by all these little things, when you know you should be focusing on that bigger project or goal?
Oh, all the time.
Right.
It's like that whole thing, you're busy, but you're not being productive.
Yeah, exactly. And Covey says we need to shift from being reactive to proactive with our time.
Yeah.
And he has this whole concept of the 4 levels of time management.
Oh, yeah.
So the first level is that being reactive, right? Just putting out fires.
Right.
Second level is about planning and scheduling.
Which is good.
Which is good,
Yeah.
but it doesn't always get you to those important but not urgent tasks.
Yeah, the things that get pushed aside.
Exactly. And that's that 4th level.
Yeah.
It's focusing on what is important but not urgent.
Yes.
Those are the tasks that often get neglected, but honestly yield the biggest rewards long term.
It's so true.
Things like building relationships, investing in your own personal growth, pursuing your passions. These are all important, but not urgent.
This reminds me actually of a time when I was feeling super overwhelmed with work. My to-do list was a mile long, and I was constantly putting out fires.
Oh, I've been there.
Right. And I remembered Covey talking about those important but not urgent things. So I actually blocked out time in my calendar, like physically, for these things that I knew would make a difference in the long run, like exercising or like brainstorming ideas for this personal project I was working on.
Yeah.
And even just spending time with my family.
Nice.
And it was a game changer. Not only did I feel less stressed, but I felt way more energized.
Sure.
And I was also more productive in all areas of my life. It was like those important but not urgent tasks that they had this ripple effect.
Totally. Because, when we invest in ourselves and those priorities, everything else just kind of falls into place.
Yeah.
And we're more likely to show up as our best selves. And that brings us to a habit that's all about building stronger relationships, which is habit 4. Think win-win.
Now, this is one that I think sometimes gets a bad rap.
It does. It does.
Because people hear win-win and they think it's like this, overly optimistic or avoiding conflict.
Right. Like you're being naive.
Right.
But it's really not about that. It's about shifting your mindset from me versus you to we. Like, how can we find solutions that benefit everyone involved?
Yeah, it's not about one person winning and one person losing.
Exactly.
And I think Covey's analogy of the emotional bank account is so helpful here.
Oh, tell me more about that.
It's like a real bank account, right? Every interaction you have with someone is either a deposit or a withdrawal.
I like that.
Right. So kindness, empathy, keeping your promises, those are all deposits that build trust. They strengthen the relationship. But, judging someone, breaking their trust, not listening to them, those are withdrawals that chip away at that foundation of the relationship.
They do. They do.
And just like your financial bank account, when you have a healthy emotional bank account, it gives you that buffer for when times get tough.
Right. You have something to fall back on.
Exactly. Because when you have that foundation of trust, it's so much easier to find those win-win solutions, even when you don't agree.
Right. Because you're coming at it from a place of understanding.
Exactly.
Collaboration rather than competition.
And that shift in perspective, just that alone, can make a world of difference in our relationships with other people.
It really can.
Yeah.
Both personally and professionally. And I think that leads us very nicely to habit 5, which is seek first to understand,
right,
then to be understood.
Oh, that's a big one. Because let's be honest, how often do we really listen to understand versus listening to respond?
It's so true. I think we're all guilty of that, right?
Right.
We're always approaching conversations with our own agendas, like what we want to say.
Yeah.
We're already thinking about our response.
Yeah, we already have the solution.
Yeah, exactly. But Covey's challenging us to flip the script on that one.
Actually listen.
To actually listen.
Yeah.
To really try to understand where that other person is coming from, their feelings, their needs, before you even think about interjecting your own stuff.
Yeah.
And he breaks down listening into 4 levels. So you have ignoring.
Okay.
Pretending to listen.
Right.
Selective listening. And then finally, that 4th level, empathic listening.
And that's what we should all be striving for.
That's the holy grail right there.
Right. Because it's not just about hearing the words, it's about connecting with the person on a deeper level, emotionally.
Totally. Think about a time when someone really, truly listened to you without judgment, no interruptions, just genuine curiosity and empathy. How did that make you feel?
It makes you feel amazing, right? Like really seen,
Right.
heard, valued.
Totally.
And when we feel understood, then we're much more open to understanding other people's perspectives.
Exactly. It creates this beautiful cycle.
It is, yeah. It's like that quote, to be understood is to be loved. But Covey takes it a step further, doesn't he? It's not just about receiving that understanding. It's also about giving it to other people.
Absolutely. And when we genuinely try to understand others, that's when we open ourselves up to new perspectives, new ideas, and then ultimately stronger relationships.
Yeah.
And that brings us to habit 6, synergize.
Ooh, synergy.
Yeah.
This one sounds like it's straight out of a business school textbook.
Right.
But when you actually think about it, synergy is something that we experience all the time.
Yeah.
In all areas of our lives.
It's that, like magical feeling when you're working with a team, maybe just brainstorming with a friend even, and suddenly the energy shifts. And one idea sparks another, and you end up with this solution that's like way better than anything you could have come up with on your own.
It's like, whoa, we're really onto something here.
Yes, exactly. That's synergy in action. It's recognizing that when we can come together and there's this openness, this respect, a willingness to learn from each other, we can achieve amazing things.
It reminds me of that saying, like, 2 heads are better than 1.
Right.
But Covey's taking it beyond just, like, having more ideas, right?
Totally.
It's about the difference in the ideas, the unique perspective that each person brings to the table.
It's valuing those differences, because true synergy, it comes from embracing the fact that we all see the world in a different way.
Yeah.
We all have our own lens.
It's about, like, respecting that.
Yes. And when we can tap into that collective wisdom, that's when the magic happens.
So we've covered 6 habits, each one kind of building on the last. We went from, like, understanding our own paradigm to seeking to understand other people's paradigms.
Right.
And now we're at the final habit, the one that kind of brings everything together.
It does. It's habit 7, sharpen the saw.
Okay.
And this one is all about renewal. It's about taking care of yourself, like physically, mentally, emotionally, and even spiritually, so that you can actually show up as your best self.
Because you can't pour from an empty cup, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
We can't be effective, whether it's in our work or our relationships or anything, if we're running on fumes.
Yeah. And, Covey gives that analogy of the woodcutter who's so busy chopping down trees, he doesn't stop to sharpen his saw. And eventually that saw gets so dull that it's almost impossible to use.
And we've all been there. You push yourself, push yourself, push yourself. You neglect your own needs, and then you wonder why you're burnt out.
Yes.
You wonder why you're not effective.
And that's why this habit is so important. Because it's a reminder that self-care is not selfish.
Right.
It's essential. When we actually take care of our own well-being, we have more energy, more focus. We're more resilient when it comes to challenges.
For sure. It's about finding that balance, right? Between doing and being.
Yes. Achieving and renewing.
And it's going to look different for everyone.
Exactly.
Maybe it's like daily exercise for some people. For other people, it's meditation or spending time in nature, journaling.
Whatever fills your cup.
Exactly.
Make it a priority.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into the 7 habits, it's amazing to me how interconnected these all are. They're not just like a to-do list. It's like this framework
Totally.
for living a more meaningful and impactful life.
A fulfilling life.
It's a journey.
It is. It's a journey of growth, and it's continuous. We're always growing, both personally and in our relationships with others.
Yeah, and what I love about Covey's work is that it gives us that roadmap.
It does.
It gives us these principles that we can keep coming back to.
Absolutely.
As we navigate, all the complexities of life.
Yeah.
So as you go about your week, I would encourage you to choose one of these habits.
Yeah. Pick one.
The one that speaks to you the most.
The one you need to work on.
And really put it into practice.
Yeah, experiment. See what happens.
See how it impacts, your interactions with other people.
Your work.
Your overall well-being.
I think you'll be surprised.
You might be surprised. Yeah. Because ultimately, I think that's what Covey's work is all about. It's about empowering us to become more effective.
Yes.
Not just for ourselves.
For everyone.
For the world around us.
One interaction, one habit, one choice at a time.
Love it. Well, thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
Yes, thank you.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, keep striving to live that life that matters.